Alright, hello and welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be doing a very quick overview of the new dev server for update La Royale. Now of course the first thing that the Americans get is the M4/T26. I guess this is basically a standard Sherman hull with a Pershing turret, nothing really more than that. The reload is identical to what it is on the Pershing. If we go into a quick test drive here, or you know what, I don't think it's even worth it going into a test drive. But yeah, it gets M82 as its best round, nothing more special than that. You know, it's a Pershing turret on a Sherman. I mean, you can see how disproportionately large the Pershing turret is compared to the Sherman hull. But yeah, you know, this is a pretty cool addition. I mean, at 6.0, you know, it's questionably over-tiered. I mean, I personally think that this is more comparable to something like a Panther G. Just because the gun is, you know, it's okay, but I guess the turret is a bit armored, but it's nothing really too crazy, and the hull is absolutely paper, so the only real place that this tank would perform really well in is maybe in a hold down position. Now the next tank which the Americans get access to is of course the M1 KVT. Now sadly I don't have the actual tank purchased, so I can only really preview it in this form. But you do get a Vismod package which adds some like fake ERA blocks and stuff to the turret and a bit of like bushes and stuff to camouflage it a bit. You can see them in the dev blog that was released quite a while back now. Other than that, it really is your standard 105 Abrams. Best shell is M774, and yeah, it really is an Abrams, nothing more, nothing less. It does have a premium modifier. I'm not sure if that's high or low. I guess it's maybe on the higher side, but yeah, Abrams. Right, so for Germany, Germany gets the Panzer 38T NA. I don't know what this stands for. Maybe I can hover over the stat card here. Nope, it doesn't tell me. Okay, well, just think of it as another Panzer 38T, which looks a bit different, but it can just be shot through the front plate. Nothing special exactly. I guess it's a cool low-tier vehicle, which I'm sure some people are interested in. You know, I am personally impartial. I mean, cool. Another vehicle which is being added is the Raketenautomat. Now this thing here, it's on the JPZ chassis, so it is fairly mobile. It's basically if you combine an OOSH with a JPZ. Of course you have access to two different types of I guess rockets. You've got the SSK-032s, which you never take because they only really have HE, and you have the PL3s which have heat warhead, so these are much better against tanks. Now, you know, it's got a total of 3 clips to reload one of the clips, and I can just go show you here. You know, you take it in, you kind of just spam people. You know, you can kind of just do that. And, you know, wreak havoc upon enemy tanks. I'm going to try and aim at this T-55 here. But, yeah, I guess we have limited success. And, yeah, I guess after you've reloaded here, you kind of have to wait for it to sort of replenish the ready rack. As you can see, you know, it's loading this clip here. Alright, well, for the Soviets get access to the BTR-80 at 5.7. In the tree, it comes out right after the PT-76. The reason why it's so low is because the gun isn't stabilized, and you also don't get any APDS. You only get APT. And you also only get 1 clip of ammunition. So in general, it's really going to be something very similar to the R3 or yeah, stuff like that. You know, it's a bit of a shame that it doesn't have APDS. I would have rather had it be at like a higher BR with APDS, but you know, this isn't exactly bad either. It's better to just see the vehicle in game, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't you know, do a whole lot of damage. And I guess it is a bit interesting to have the modern test drive here despite being at 5.7, but yeah, that is really the BTR for you. Now what the Soviets also get this update is the Object 435. Now this is really just T62. You know, the gun is identical, the ammunition it fires is also identical, and the reload I believe is also identical with 12 seconds. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, there we go, reload is also identical. So at 8.3, you know, I guess it looks cooler, and it does have this useful KPVT here, so in general it should be relatively fun to play. I'd say it'd be quite an effective AA, but you know, it is a tank in the end, so it should probably be played that way. Yeah, I mean, you know, a T-62 with a debatable amount of armor. I mean, you know, it's decent, but at that tier you see APDS and Heat FS, so don't really expect to absorb any shots in this tank, but it is certainly nice to see it, and I'll probably add it to my lineup where I play my T55 AM1. Now, I guess we could take it into a very short test drive here. I mean, it really is your standard Soviet MBT. Well, not really, I guess. You know, it doesn't have an auto loader. It's still got 4 people in here. I don't know how they managed to cram 4 people into this tank. But regardless, yeah, it looks like there's a loader here. There's a driver, a commander, and stuff like that. You know, it is your standard T62. Oh, it even has a little ammunition, animation there in the back. But yeah, you know, should be a pretty cool vehicle to play, but don't expect to be like meta or something, because the reload is you know, still on the slower side. So yeah, that is how it is. Now, Britain for this patch doesn't really get anything too special as of yet. You know, they do get the SARC Mark 4A, which is, you know, your standard light tier run around the map type of guy. There is also a T90S for most likely a squadron vehicle, I'm gonna guess, but it could also be an event vehicle. I don't know yet. The point is, there is a Indian T90S in the files, which I'll show a couple screenshots here in the background, but sadly I don't know how to show it on the dev server, but it is in the files, so expect it to come either this update or you know, as an event vehicle later on sometime. Now, Japan, in terms of ground, does actually get something relatively special. This is the Type 87 RCV prototype. So as you know, the Type 87 normally is at, I believe, 8.3 or 8.7 because it has APFSDS. This thing here doesn't. It's just your standard RH202, which you find on the Weasel, but it's on a wheeled platform. It gets scouting, so that's nice, but this is probably going to be something like an AA, just because you can't really kill tanks in this thing. You know, you can always go after enemy AA, but that's really where the fun ends. You know, should be a relatively decent vehicle. You know, a bit of a scout that you can run around in, but you know, you're not going to get any kills, or at least you're not going to get many kills in this thing. It's most likely going to be a support tank. You know, maybe you can repair friendlies, scout enemy tanks, shoot down planes, but that's about it. I guess we could take it into a very short test drive here, but it really isn't anything too special, I think. It's really your standard RH202. You can kind of just spam enemy tanks, but even, yeah, okay, the Shilka there was relatively easy to deal with, but yeah, I mean, it really isn't too special of a vehicle. Okay, a bit of a skill issue here on this Saber. Oh, I actually hit him though. Regardless, you know, AA for Japan, always nice to see, but they technically already have one, so yeah, interesting choice to add, I guess. Alright, well, China this update is getting the ZTZ-88B. Now, this is really the ZTZ-88, but it's got a slightly worse gun. It's a bit shorter, so the APFSTS on it actually has a bit less penetration than what you have on the A variant. Other than that, it really is the same tank, you know, same horsepower, same transmission, same reverse gear, same armament, same amount of smoke grenades. I guess another tank to the already relatively strong 8.7 lineup, so that's quite nice to see. Now, I guess also in the files for China, there are the track models for the VT4, which is sort of a weird export tank that kind of looks like a ZTZ-96A. Maybe those track models are just for another tank, maybe there's track models for the 96, I don't know. It could also be an event vehicle. You know, we've seen the tracks of the T90 in the game for quite a long time, and I guess now it finally makes an appearance in the form of a vehicle. So, you know, I guess it isn't impossible that we'll get the VT4 later in game sometime, either as an event vehicle, squadron vehicle, or tech tree, although it would be a bit odd to have it as a tech tree, but you know, anything is a possibility. Now, Italy this patch gets access to the Freccia IFV. Now, the Freccia, as you know, it has spike launchers here. It gets a total of 8 missiles, so that's relatively good, you know. I guess the QN506 only gets something like 4, I believe. This thing gets 8, so that's always nice. Here are the stats for the missile. Of course, things can still change, but it looks like they have a 20-kilometer lock range. I don't know what their actual range is, but you know, they're a bit on the slower side, but you know, they do like fly up and arc down and then strike, so they should be relatively powerful. Of course, at 10.0, you're going to face a lot of tanks which have like a decent amount of turret armor, so you know, if the missile aims center of mass, you may not do as much damage as you'd hope. But you know, I think it's still a cool vehicle to see. Of course, we know how good this chassis is here with the VBC, which also exists. So, you know, should be a relatively fun vehicle to game once it makes it into the live server. Now, France this update gets access to the AMX-30 AUF-1. Now, this tank here, it's a massive artillery vehicle. Armor-wise, it is paper. I mean, 20 millimeters, nothing really too special. And all of the ammunition is stored here in the back. Now, it's really nice that this is all first stage ammo. Actually, no, it isn't. There's only 37 rounds in the first stage. There's a bit of ammunition somewhere else. I don't know where, because it says it has a total of 42. I don't know where the rest are, because here it says there's only 36 here. But yeah, cool tank to see. I mean, another big gun. Here are the stats for these shells. I guess, oh yeah, no, they're really fast actually. 810 meters a second, should be relatively fun. Does have a bit less HE than the M107 shell, but you know, I think it should be relatively fun to play. I mean, you know, big gun does big funny things, always enjoyable, and even with a 7.7, or even not even with a 7, with a 7.5 second reload, it should be yeah, really enjoyable to play. I mean, I guess something like the Type 75, I believe that has a 10-second reload, and the 2S3M here has at 17.3 second reload. So as far as I know, this will be the fastest loading 155mm cannon in game, bar the Bakan, which I forgot what reload it had. I can't even find it anymore. Where did it go? Let's see, there we go, here it is. The Bakan has a 3.2 second reload, but it also only gets 14 shells, so, and it's also kind of on a bit of a fixed turret. So I'd say that this thing can also certainly be fun. You know, at a beer of 7.0, other tanks you can bring with it are very limited. I guess you could bring the AML, but really that's about it. So maybe you'll up tier with the 7.3, but that's a bit tough as well. So yeah, we'll see we'll see how this thing plays out on the live server once it does make it. Fortunately, I don't have any of the vehicles, so I can't actually preview it anywhere, but hey, hopefully you'll get a relatively good insight on how this thing might perform on the live server. Now, Sweden for this update gets access to the CV9030 Finnish CV90. It's got the same 30mm which you find on the Puma. It's got thermals. It's I don't know how good the stabilizer is, but it does have one, so that should be relatively fun to play. At 9.0, lineup you can bring is kind of limited. I mean, you have the STRV 105, you have this thing here, but as far as I know, that's kind of where the fun ends. I guess you could bring the Premium Leopard if you have that, but you know, I guess cool tank to see. I mean, it's another SCV something tank, but you know, it's a bit of variety in the Swedish tech tree, so that's not exactly bad to see. Also for the Swedish, they get access to a Sherman. Now every tech tree has a Sherman. The prophecy is complete. You know, quite a bit of a unique tank. I think that this can actually be really strong, because the armor here is actually relatively scary for 3.7. I mean, if we take something like the German 75, you know, just test it. I mean, I guess it does go through, but even if you angle it slightly, like, I don't think it'll go through this angle here. Never mind, it does. I am wrong. Okay. But you know what? I think the armor on these vehicles isn't really done anyway. So you know, all is subject to change. The turret is also supposedly strong. I mean, yeah, make of that what you will. But you know, stuff like this, you know, it's cool to see. I mean, now that every tech tree has a Sherman, we can confidently say that the game is complete and that no vehicles need to be added anymore. But yeah, I mean, cool thing to see. Alright, now Israel this update gets the Magog 6 Hydra, or just the Magog Hydra, I guess. It's foldered here with the Magog 6, so you don't have to go through the painstaking progress of, you know, researching another Magog. It's got these here Hydra launchers here, I guess very similar to something like the Lavad has, but unlike the Lavad, they're kind of angled upwards if you kind of look at the tank from the side here, so you know, how useful they are is kind of debatable. I guess if you want to use them properly, you'd have to angle your gun barrel like really down low, but then you might as well just use the gun at that point, maybe if your barrel is taken out. But yeah, they're probably more of a gimmick than actually something useful. In terms of modifications, it gets, you know, APFSDS. It does not get any ERA, so you do miss out on that in exchange for these Hydra launchers here. So, you know, maybe it isn't as good as the normal Magog 6, which does have ERA. So yeah, I mean, that really does it for the vehicles on the dev server. I mean, you've seen that, you know, there are a couple of vehicles hidden in the files. There's the BT4 Trex, and most importantly, the T90 squadron vehicle for the Britain, for whatever creative reason they can come up with. But hey, that's yeah, been it for today. Hopefully you've gotten some useful information from this video. Admittedly, my ability to create dev server content is a bit limited just because I don't have the actual vehicles available to me. But yeah, hopefully I've at least been a bit of a help in understanding what's coming in the next update. Anyway, that does it for me today. Hopefully you have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.